Alright, what's up guys? Out here today, I want to dive into a little something I've been really excited about for a few months and really all year round. It's a technique, really got to learn to fine tune, got a lot better at it, and now I'm getting to the point where I'm comfortable talking about it and teaching you guys about it. So what I want to talk about today is, big worms, magnum sized worms for summertime bass. And there's a lot of different worms out there on the market, different ways to fish them and different places to fish them, and so I kind of want to dive into that, maybe help some of the people that aren't super comfortable fishing a real big worm and help them work up to that point. And for the people that do already know, maybe I can give you guys a little bit of insight on things I've already learned, or maybe you've missed out on, and maybe even later I'll get to learn from you guys a little bit of something. But for now, let's go ahead and dive right on in. I want to really break this down into two categories. First, I'm going to do straight tail. That'd be like this 13-inch Uptons. Could also be smaller, like a Zoom Magnum trick worm. Both the same concept, just a little bit different size and bait, as you can tell. So let's start. We'll do the Magnum trick worm first, because this will be a little more comfortable for most people to fish, and maybe many of you guys have fished it already. But Magnum trick worm catches a lot of fish. It's not the biggest bait. It seems big when you're just getting into big worms, but really, in the big scheme of things, pretty small bait compared to a lot of the other worms that are thrown. I like to throw this around rock piles and brush piles, really anywhere I have fish congregated out deep. I throw this bait on a Texas rig most of the time. I'll throw it on a Texas rig, usually 1/4 ounce weight, even as low as a 3/16, and I'll drop this down in brush piles and catch the fish that really pack up in the brush when it gets sunny. Also, put a big shaky head on this, get out, throw it on rock piles. And same concept with the big Uptons. This is an Uptons 13-inch, and they have a 16-inch also that I like to throw, and I usually throw this on a Texas rig and a shaky head as well. But I'll throw this in those places that are already getting beat up from baits like a Magnum trick worm, and it seems like I get more bites. Also, if I'm in an area where I'm catching a lot of fish, I'll put this on to weed out some of the smaller bites, and maybe instead of catching a 14-inch average, I might start catching a 3-pound average. May get fewer bites, but I'm still gonna catch better quality and the same amount of quality as I would before. Another good bait's also this is a Yum. Oh, I can't even remember what it's called now. Also a good version of a big straight tail worm. Throw it the same way, shaky head, Texas rig, even a Carolina rig occasionally. But a big deal on both of these styles is going to be color. You can see plum, big trend on big worms in the summertime. Plum, apple, just regular plum works. Your purples, your blacks, your blues, really bold colors in the summertime seem to get a lot better bites than your natural colors. And so I tend to stick with something more bold, and I just generally get more bites when doing that. But let's go ahead and go on to the curly or ribbon tail worms, as you can call them. First one I like to throw, this is going to be a Zoom Old Monster 10.5-inch. Also throw the 12.5-inch. It's kind of the same concept as the straight tail, like I was talking about. I'll upgrade to that 12.5-inch if I'm getting a lot of bites and want to get bigger bites. But sometimes they don't want to touch that bigger size, and you have to back down. But these almost, I'd say 99% of the time I'm throwing a ribbon tail worm, I'm throwing it on a Texas rig. Doesn't matter if I'm dragging it on bottom, brush piles, rock piles, boat ramps, always doing the same thing. And the big thing with this bait is to try to keep bottom contact at all times. So I'll get it down there, I'll throw anywhere from a 1/8 all the way up to a 1/2 ounce weight on this, and just really whatever it takes to keep it on the bottom, depending on how much wind and water movement I have at the time. But I really love to throw this in brush piles, is where it shines most. Brush piles and standing timber, really where these fish are going to be biting it on the fall. Seems like the most productive time, but you also do catch fish on a dragging rock and things like that. So it's really something to pay attention to, and make sure you got that plum color. And the best ones I've found so far is going to be the Zoom Old Monster and this Guggen Baits Mondo worm. Very similar bait, and they both work very well, and they produce about the same. So it really just depends on your preference. Once again, those bold reds, plum, things like that, that's going to be your best bet this time of the year. Now when I talk about throwing these on a shaky head, this is a Magnum Strike King shaky head. I forgot exactly what it's called. I'll link it all down in the description below so you guys can see later and see where you want to purchase it if you want to get it. This big shaky head's got a big flat sled style head. This is what I want to throw generally on these baits. It helps me bring it through brush piles and things better. Also comes through the rock a lot better than a ball style head or something of that sort. So I try to stick to that. Most of the time in a big hook, they got a 7/0 hook in this bait, so it can really, it takes a big hook to get something to stick these fish with a big worm like 16-inch like that. And on my Texas rig, I'm old-fashioned on this. I got a 1/4 ounce weight on this one particularly. I let it free slide. I do not like to peg the weight on these baits. I feel like I get less bites, so if I can get through the cover without pegging, I won't peg. So 99% of the time I don't have a peg when I'm throwing a Texas rig big worm. But and just a normal 5/0. This is a Trocar. I forgot exactly what model it is, and I'll link it down in the description like everything else. But I throw a regular wire hook. I don't like to throw the big thick wire because I like to downsize line often down to like 15, so that I can fish lighter weights. But you can even go down to 12-pound line and throw a light wire hook. Generally I throw in that mid-range and just stay there because I'm comfortable with it. That's what I've gotten used to over the last couple of years, and it seems like it helps get a couple more bites when you can put that lighter weight on, really slow down. But sometimes they do want a bigger weight and a faster fall, and you'll get beat 9 to 10 out of the back of the boat. So just pay attention to those kind of things, and if you're by yourself, make sure and experiment a little bit. But on my lighter stuff, I will throw this. This is a 7.3 Kistler magnesium. Just a medium heavy rod. Loads up real well. You want something heavy to throw these big worms on, so you can get the fish out and away from the cover that you're fishing. So this rod is just enough to use when I'm throwing an 1/8 to 1/4 ounce weight. This one will get the job done. Now on my bigger weights and bigger baits, I like to throw this is a MHX blank. I like to throw it's an FS 905. It's a 7.6 heavy. The 7.6 really allows me to pick up more line on the hook set, especially if I'm throwing something like a Carolina rig, and it allows me to pull more line up without losing that hook set. But also on the big worms, you need a big rod to stick these fish on a big rod or a big worm, because there's a lot of plastic here to ball up on the hook, and it can really affect your hookup ratio. So a big rod really combats that and helps you hook more fish. And the last thing that I want to talk about is throwing this on a Carolina rig. Both of these baits work extremely well on it, and it seems like in the summertime when fish are getting pressured and they're set up on hard bottom scenarios, the Carolina rig often will outperform the other options like shaky head or Texas rig, because I think it just lets the bait be little more free, stay off the bottom, and you'll get a few extra bites sometimes if you throw this. Now, I'll throw this anywhere from an 18-inch leader like I got here, and generally I'm throwing a 3/8 or a 1/2 ounce weight. I don't like to go real big for me because this helps me slow down. I struggle to slow down if I have a big weight on, so this really helps me take the time and pick apart areas. But a Carolina rig is a good way to catch a lot of fish, and you can catch big fish on a Carolina rig. And one thing I didn't mention was throwing these big baits. Even the ribbon tail and the straight tail, all of them, you can throw these on a big drop shot. I forgot what they even call it, but I'll put on a full-size hook on these baits. Throw a 5 to 7/0 hook and a 1/2 ounce drop shot weight on 15 to 20 pound line. And these places that are real specific that I want a bait to stay in, you can put the bait in there and let it sit on bottom and just hold in one place, shake it. If you're fishing brush piles, specific pieces of rock, specific pieces of timber, sorry about that. And you can keep your bait in one spot for a long time, and a lot of the time will you know, help you get more strikes when you do that. And I think that's all I got on this one. You guys let me know other baits or tactics that you want to see me, you know, really dive into, get in depth on, and I'll go and talk about them some more. You know, I'd like to pull out some big crankbaits, things like that. Really summer tactics to help you guys throughout the summer months until we dive into fall, and then we'll get there when we get there. But if you guys like the content, make sure to like the video, comment on it, and subscribe to the channel. Also, if you haven't already, hit the little subscription bell on the bottom. I don't think a lot of people are getting notifications, or the little subscription bell, I'm sorry, the notification bell on the bottom. I don't think people are getting the notifications for my videos being posted. So if you guys do that, that'll make sure that you guys get the video sent to you when I post it. But thanks for watching, and I'll catch you guys on the next one.